Hello and welcome to Model Train Fun. Today we're going to look at how to connect an accessory to the Mobile Station 2. I'm going to look at how to connect the turnout decoder, and I'm going to look at how to connect a signal, and then I'm going to look at how to connect M84 here. So these are just three examples of how to connect to the Mobile Station 2. In truth, it's actually pretty simple to connect up to the Mobile Station 2. There's not much to it. The first thing you need to do is make sure no power on your layout. Then you go to your manual, and you find in there in your manual there will be a table in there where you can see how to set the dip switch. Then you go to the relevant device. So this could be this M83. There's a dip switch there. You set it according to the manual, and then you connect to the track, and then you basically power on the Mobile Station 2, and then hit the accessory, find the same address as you entered into the accessory, and that's basically it. However, there's a lot of tips and tricks around how you can do it and how you can do troubleshooting. So that's why this video perhaps is a little longer than it should be, because I already gave you the explanation. Enjoy the video. So connecting an accessory to the Mobile Station 2 or the MS2 is basically three simple steps. The first thing you need to do, make sure that whatever decoder you are connecting to or accessory you are connecting to is not connected to power, and set the address for that one. Then you need to make sure you connect the accessory to the power source or to the digital signal, basically connecting the red and the brown wire. Again, you need to make sure to do this while there's no power on the layout or anything. And then finally, you can power on your layout and your Mobile Station 2, and then you can actually start using it. If we look at it a little more detailed, so the first step, the first thing you should do before setting the address, you should actually plan or at least keep track of the addresses you're using on your layout, because you want to make sure that when you add a new accessory, it doesn't have the same address as another accessory you already have on your layout. As an example, you may not want two turnouts to actually change at the same time. So you need to keep track of all your accessories and what addresses they have, so it doesn't overlap. Then you need to decide, are you going to use the Märklin Motorola or MM address scheme or the DCC address scheme. I recommend you use the Märklin Motorola for when you're using the Mobile Station 2. Then you need to look in the manual how to set the address. And when you figure that out, you need to make sure that everything is powered off for your accessory, and then you set the address. For almost all Märklin accessories, you set the address on a dip switch. For non-Märklin, you have to go and read the manual how you do it. Some have dip switches, some have other ways of doing it. So please consult the manual. Here's an overview table of all the Märklin accessories. The latest ones are at the top, and these are the ones that you can see out here with the X's, support MFX. Then you have what I will call the modern, and then you got some older ones. And then here at the bottom, I got the modern signals, so the signals that are the generation just before the latest. They actually have a special programming wire or bracket you have to use. I'm not going into how these work in this video. As you see out here to the right, there's three different addressing schemes. Märklin Motorola, sometimes called MM, sometimes called MM2, sometimes called FX. This addressing scheme works with all the Märklin accessories, and also most other accessories you will go out and buy. They support up to 320 addresses. Some of the older ones, as you can see a little further down here, only support 256 addresses. What you have to remember here is the address space for the accessories are different from the address space for the locomotives. So you can have an accessory on address 1, and you can have a locomotive on address 1, and they do not overlap. You can control them individually. So in truth, there's plenty of addresses for when you're using Mobile Station 2, because there's only so big a layout you can make, because there's not that much power in the transformer for the Mobile Station 2. So my recommendation is use the Märklin Motorola when you're using the Mobile Station 2. The next address scheme is the MFX. Unfortunately, the Mobile Station 2 cannot control MFX accessories. You need the central station for that. It does control MFX locomotives, but unfortunately not MFX accessories. So we can skip this one. The last addressing way you can consider is DCC. It works, as you can see here, for not all accessories, but the newest accessories, at least the Märklin ones. And you also have to be careful, even though you can see you can address it higher, basically up to 2040 addresses here. Some of them you can only set up to 511 on the dip switch. Again, DCC address space is different from the locomotive address space, which is different from the Märklin Motorola address space. So I would recommend that you only choose the DCC as a way of addressing your accessories if you're absolutely sure you will never have an accessory that's Märklin Motorola only. There are 4 different kind of decoders. The first one is the multidecoder. It's the new version. As you can see here, that applies to the M83 and the M84, both in the non-MFX and the MFX version, or the white and the black versions. Here you can see how to address them, how the dip switches are supposed to be set. For the M83 and M84, do remember there's 4 outputs, so it takes 4 addresses by default. By doing some programming, you can actually turn them into 8 output, and then they will take 8 addresses. On the dip switch there, you can set the Märklin Motorola all the way up to 320 addresses, and the DCC all the way up to 2040. And do remember here at the end, the 0 here, or the 10, that is the one that where you set the format for the addressing scheme. If it's off, then it's set to Märklin Motorola or FX. If it's on, then it's DCC. By the way, off means that you can see here it's flipped towards the numbers at the bottom, and if it's on, then it's flipped towards the top of the dip switch here. If we go to the next one, there's also an old multi-decoder. I'm not really going to cover that too much here. It's for the old K83, K84 devices. They are very hard to find anymore. They cover 4 addresses as well, because they have 4 outputs. The addressing is a little weird here, because it basically it is groups of 4 keyboards, so you have to look at how that is. And I believe I put in the addresses correctly here, and I believe you can only set it up to address 256 if you have one of those. For the new installation decoder, this works on the modern turnout decoders, so the 61 and 62, the 3-way decoders, and the modern signals. For these, it will either be 1 or 2 addresses. The turnout decoder takes 1 address. The 3-way turnout decoder takes 2 addresses. And some of the signals, if they're 2 aspect, that take 1 address. If they're 3 or 4, they take 2 addresses. Again, you can use the dip switch to set it. On DCC, only up till 511. On Märklin Motorola to 320. Again, it looks pretty much like the other one. It has 10 switches. If it's towards the number, then it's off, and it's towards away from the number, then it's on. And over here you can see, as an example, address 10 it says you need to have 2 and 4 on, then you need to flip 2 and 4 on, so away from the numbers. In this case, it's actually address 8. You can see it's number 4, and we can see it matches here. Okay. Then there's also an old installation decoder. The only one I know of that has that is the older turnout decoder, so the one that ends on 60. Again, it has one address, and it can basically also be set on the dip switch. Now the turnout table, the new turnout table, I should say, the 74, 861 and 862 are special. They actually cover 16 addresses with all the functions they can do. Remember, there's both sound in there, and they can turn and stop and so on, right? So there's many things you can do. They actually cover 16 addresses. Look up in the manual how it works. However, what's interesting here in this video is there's no dip switch, but the default address is Märklin Motorola 225 to 240. You cannot change this address on the Mobile Station 2, so if you want to use the turntable, make sure no other accessory conflict with these addresses, and then use the turntable as it is, straight out of the box. It should be noticed that you can change it to another address or even to DCC if you use a Central Station 2 or Central Station 3 to reprogram it using MFX. So that was basically the step 1. This is usually the most complicated. Make sure that you plan your addresses. Make sure you know how to do it. For most Märklin accessories, it's a dip switch, which basically means that you just have to set that correctly according to a table in the manual. The next thing you want to do is make sure that there's no power on your layout, and then connect your accessory either directly to the track or to a power bus. If you have a relatively small layout or a temporary layout, you can connect it directly to the track, to the C-track, for example. If you have a bigger layout, even for Mobile Station 2, then consider having a separate set of wires that goes from the Mobile Station 2 throughout the layout, and then you can make drop points up to the track and up to individual accessories as well. So that's what's called a power bus. Then you basically can go straight to step 3, which is power it on, and then you basically just grab your Mobile Station 2, you select the accessory button, so that's the one here to the right of the stop where there's a turnout on, there's a white turnout. You click on that one, and then you find the correctly addressed on there, and then you go ahead and use it. So on the Mobile Station 2, you basically just have to start it up. You have to select the address, and then you go ahead and press the buttons there. That also means there's no easy, let's say, way to see what it is you're doing, other than, as you can see on the keyboard here, you can choose between red and green. Here we have the Mobile Station 2, and as you can see, it's turned off. There's nothing in the display. It's connected to the track here using the brown and the red wire. Then I want to connect a turnout. In this turnout, I basically have a turnout decoder that's the old installation decoder. So we're going to install that. I got a signal over here, and you can see here, this is the new installation decoder. And then we have over here an M84. An M84 also has a dip switch, and this is a new type multi-decoder. So what I don't have an example of is the old style multi-decoder, but you will rarely find that. That's basically the K83 and K84 that does that. Now to switch it up a little, I'm gonna give this one the turnout over here, address 10 in Märklin Motorola. I'm going to give the signal also address 10, but in DCC, so we can see how they do not interfere with each other, and how to change the Mobile Station 2 so you can use DCC instead of Märklin Motorola. And then I'm going to use the multi-decoder with the Märklin Motorola format in address 10. Now, why am I choosing address 10? because that one could conflict with the turnout. The turnout takes one address and the M84 takes two addresses. All right, now let's start with the turnout. So we have the turnout decoder here. You can see before I actually had it set for address 203. This is a good tip. Always put a little sticker on such that you can figure out what address you have given it. So both document it, but also put a little sticker on. Now, here we have the dip switch. And as you can see, there are some small switches here. They are a little random right now. What you need to use is a small screwdriver. So you can see a flat screwdriver. So you basically can use the edge of those into the dip switches. So what I always do is I always reset it first. So basically put them all on off. So that's what we got now. And then we can set it. So address 10 in Märklin Motorola, that's number 1 I need to turn on. And then I need to turn on 4, 5, and 7. So where do we have that? 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this must be 7. And then number 10 here at the end. All right, so you can see now it matches here what you see on the screen as well. So now that's Märklin Motorola number address 10, sorry. We put the Märklin decoder back in. All right, we can put it down. I could already put it to the track, but I'm gonna wait a little with that because the next one I want to do is the signal here. So we have the signal with a wire to the decoder. Let me just zoom in on this. And here you can see there's another dip switch. It's a little harder to get to because it's inside this plastic, but where the other one was the old style installation decoder, this one is the new style, which basically means that when you have to set the address, it has to be set in a different way. Do also remember that the new style supports DCC, while the old one does not. So how do we program this one? Remember, I wanted to give it address 10 in DCC, but the first thing I do is I make sure that I reset all of the dip switches, because then it's easier for me. Make sure they're all pushed all the way down, okay, like that. And then we look how should it be set up. You can see here on the screen now it's 2, 4, and 0. So 2 and 4, what do we have? 2. Then we have 2 here. Up with that one, 4. And remember here on the new installation decoder, the last one indicates the format. Off, which is down, is Märklin Motorola, and up is DCC. So now we got it set like this. Most excellent. Now we need the M84. So I have the M84 here. We have the decoder or the dip switch hiding up in this corner. So again, the first thing we want to do is reset it. So basically set them all to 0 or off. Let me see, how do I do this here? Here, and that's it. There was 2 pushed up. Now the address for this one, we wanted to set it for address 5. Remember, it covers 4 addresses, so that will be 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it won't conflict with our turnout, which is number 10. I could also have given the turnout number 9, so I'm all good here. This one here, I need number 2, basically to be on, okay? So this is this one here, and that's all I need to do, because number 10 at the end, sometimes also denoted 0, I want that to Märklin Motorola, so it's all good now. And notice not all 3 dip switches had to be set differently. So what you have to remember is find the correct manual. You saw on the earlier in the video where I showed some of the addresses. You can use those if you cannot find it. Find the manual, at least you can get some of the way. All right. Now let's go ahead and connect the accessories to the track. So in this case, you see I'm just going to connect it directly to the track. As mentioned earlier in the video, we could also have a power bus and connect it directly to that. When we need to connect it to the track, we need to make sure to look at the track underneath. Let's see if we can see it here. You can see it says B here to this side, and then it says 0. It's hard to see, but it's under the tab. B is the red wire. It's also the one closest to the edge. O or 0 here is the brown wire, and it's the one furthest from the edge. So let's take we have the M84 here. I already got a couple of wires to it. I got them here. I'm just gonna plug them in. So, and as you can see, this one here is brown. So I connect that to the 0, or the one furthest from the edge. It's over here. I connect the red. Oh, I dropped the red. It's here. I connect that one to the B. Okay, and then I flip it over. Now, notice one thing here. Here I have the track where I have connected the MS2. You see, I connected that to the left. I actually did the exact same thing here with my M82. And when I connect them together here, they're both connected to the left. Now this is not mandatory. I could have connected the M84 to the other end as well. However, if you have made the track into contact track, then if you connect to the other end, you will get on the wrong rail. So as a rule of thumb, I always connect them to the same side as they are here now. Okay, so that's the M84. Now let's try the same thing for the signal. So I got the signal here, I got the wire here, okay. And again, you see B is the short one here, which is the red, so we pick out the red wire. And notice another thing, you see the one with the groove in, you hold that towards yourself when you have the track upside down. Otherwise it's flat here, okay. You press it on, you use the brown, and you can put that one on the other one, the one furthest away, which is the 0. We connect it all together. And again, you see I've connected everything to the left side of the track. And then the final thing I do, let me just zoom out. I basically just connect the turnout, and remember the turnout cannot be made into a contact track, so it really doesn't matter how it's connected. Okay, so now we got all the wires here, okay, and everything is connected. Now I use the small spade connectors actually to connect all the wires directly to the track. A better way, if you have a permanent layout, is to actually solder it in place. That will give you a much more secure connection. However, these spade ones here are also pretty good. And you can see here, I got the CS2 connected. Then, so these are all short tracks, a short track with the CS2, short track with the M84, a short track with the signal. And then we got the turnout decoder here, and I did all of that without power on. So now we turn on the power. And the mobile station 2 powers on. All right, we are in stop mode. Okay, let's go out of stop mode. And already here you will be able to see some things happening. So you see some accessories will actually light out, like the M82. If you look at the signal, hopefully we should also have a light here. Maybe it's a little hard to see. Let me see how close I can get it here. So can you see that? There's a green light in here. However, the turnout, you can't really see anything. But that's at least one way you can troubleshoot. So whenever you do troubleshooting, what I suggest is you take two pieces of track, one where you connect the CS2, one where you connect your accessory, and then that's the only pieces you have on there. So let me just put it in stop mode. Remember, only disconnect and connect when you're in stop mode or completely power off. So what I would suggest is when you're troubleshooting, you see there's two here, take two pieces of track, one connected to the MS2 and the other one to the accessory you want to test, and then only test with that one there. if that accessory doesn't, when you go out of stop mode, some accessories will have light, which is really nice, so you can see it. So that happens for the M83, M84, and for the signal you can see a light in there as well. For the turnout you cannot, but at least it's a way to rule out mistakes and try out something simple. Oh, I almost connected it. We remember to put it in stop mode, and we connect everything together again. All right. So in order to get to the accessories, we go to the accessory page here. So that's this one here where you see there's a turnout. You click on that one and then you get into accessories. It changes into keyboards here, but you don't really care about that. You care about the number 1, 2 here, not the keyboard 1. You use this button over here to the right to count up. You can see now it says 5, 6, 7, 8 and so on. You can count up, and you can use the other one to count down. You can also hit shift and then you can jump faster. Shift and then rotate the knob, right? And see, you can go past 0. See, when you got below 0, it goes up to the 320 here. So 1, 2, what was it? The M84 was 5, 6, 7. So here I have 5, 6. When I hit this one, you can hear something happens. Maybe it's better if I hold it up. So the good thing about the M84 is it has the so I'm going to use these two buttons here, red and green, right? The ones outside red and green. And you can see 5, that's this one here. That's address 1. Whenever I click, you can see something happens. I can go to the other side. So here we have 5 and 6. Here's red and green. And then we should see the next address. You see that? Something happens there. I can go to, let's take 7 and 8. And again, here's 7 and 8. If I do it to the right, you can see then I select board 4. You can see here it selects like this, right? And then it selects. And I can do the same thing with the other one. You can see now number 3 is green. And then I can press red and then it turns red. Most excellent. Now the signal. Let's see if we can get to that one. Oh no, we cannot because we're in Märklin Motorola mode. So we want to do the turnout. So I have the turnout here. And you can see now I got address 10 here to this side. It says 910. By the way, I can also go one further and then 10 is to the other side because now it says 1011, right? So let me just have it over here. So I got red, green. I hold up my turnout and you can see, by the way, whenever you just connect your accessory, the Mobile Station 2 doesn't know which position it is. It just has one random position. So you may have to shift a couple of times till it gets right. In this case here it's right because green is normally straight. I hit the red and now it goes to curved. And now I hit the green here and you can hear it shifting. And you can see it shifting here. So that works. Now the signal. Remember it had the same address. So I'm still on address 10. But you see nothing happens here. You can see in the background down there that the turnout works. So what do I do to go to the signal? And remember, this is why I suggest you use either Märklin Motorola or DCC only, because you cannot just easily shift from one to the other. How do you shift? You hit shift and then the turnout. Actually what you want when it's shift is the red. So you get here the configuration of the MS2 or the Mobile Station 2. So you click on that one. You see you get in here to a menu. There's a scroll bar over here to the right. You can use these two buttons to scroll up and down. Okay. You scroll down till you see local protocols and accessory protocols. I want to select the accessory protocols. I click the button next to it on the left hand side and it goes in here. And here you can select either Märklin Motorola or DCC. I want to select DCC now. Oh, did that work? I don't know, I think it did. Yeah, see, now it's not the turnout anymore. Okay, let me just see. So here we got the green. And you can see it's green on the display, so I'm on 10 now. When I change to red, it's the red. And then I can change to green, red, green, red, green. But see, now it's DCC. My turnout down here doesn't do anything. See, I can change, it doesn't do anything. It's only the the signal that does it. So in this way, DCC and Märklin Motorola are two different addresses. And as you saw, it's not easy to shift back and forth. So I suggest you decide on one of them. And what I suggest you do is you decide on the Märklin Motorola when you're using the Mobile Station 2, because there will be enough addresses for you. Again, you do that by Shift, Configuration. You scroll down with the right button here. You find Accessories, you hit that one. And then you hit the button next to MM, and it's into that. And when we select now, it's actually the turnout again. So, oops, I got a lot of wires here. And now you see it's the turnout. And if we look at the signal, you see the signal is on green. I try and select here again, nothing happens. Most excellent. All right. That wasn't really that difficult. The only thing you had to do was 3 simple steps. Set the address, then connect the device or the accessory, for example the M84 here, to the digital power, and then go ahead and use it. Now there's a few caveats to that. One is you should really plan your addresses on your layout because, well, you built something on your layout, now you come with a new device, let's say you want to extend, I have a new turnout I want to put in, what address do I give this one? To me there's 2 good tricks. One is put a sticker on your accessories with the address so you always remember it in case you even can get to the accessory. If this is under ballast, maybe not, but then again it's still handy. And keep an overview of your layout with where the addresses are. You could perhaps even make a small layout drawing, because when you have the Mobile Station 2, then you basically just have to go to a specific address. There's no indication of where on the layout it is. So maybe make yourself a small drawing, make yourself a small overview of what the addresses are. In addition to that, you could choose between Märklin Motorola on the one hand and DCC on the other hand to do the addressing scheme. I recommend you use Märklin Motorola when you're using the Mobile Station 2, because in truth, yes, you can make a rather large layout with a Mobile Station 2, but I don't believe you'll get into the case where you'll have so many accessories on your layout you'll run out of Märklin Motorola addresses. And then the Märklin Motorola addresses, even if you use older devices, they can typically also use that as well. If you use newer devices, you could choose a DCC only strategy. And if you have a DCC only strategy, you got more addresses you can choose from, typically all the way up till 2040, I believe it was. But on some devices, you might only be able to set fewer. As you saw in this one here, the signal here, which I set to DCC, on the dip switch, you could set it to 511. You can actually go in and program this one as well, and then you can set it to the full range. However, it's a matter of taste if you want to use Märklin Motorola and DCC. If you're in doubt, I recommend to use Märklin Motorola. The last thing I want to say is, this is Märklin accessories. All the Märklin accessories, except the turnout table, have a small dip switch on here. That's the way they do it. Other manufacturers or other brands may have different ways. I know some of them, basically you have to connect them up by yourself. So let's say this is from a different brand, then you connect it up and then you will just go to the Mobile Station 2, select an address, and then just activate that address, and then this one will actually pick it up. There's some brands that does it like that. There's some brands that does it differently. The key is go look in the manual. It tells you in here how to do it. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like, and please do consider subscribe to the channel. Hit the little notification bell so you'll be notified about upcoming videos, and then enjoy your model trains.